In this episode, we're going to look at groundwater management software, in particular at software provided by the U.S. Geological Survey, and an overview of the input structure for that software. You can find this software at this web address, and if you look on this page for either MODFLOW or GWM, you will find the software that we'll be referring to in this episode. I'll next be going to the MODFLOW page at the USGS website. And here we are at the USGS MODFLOW webpage. And scrolling down, we see a description of MODFLOW, its history, the current core versions or core version of MODFLOW, and a list of MODFLOW variants, which includes GWM, the groundwater management process for MODFLOW. We'll now go to that page. We're now on the GWM page of the USGS website, and we see an overview, and there are two versions of GWM, one coupled with GWM 2000, MODFLOW 2005, referred to as GWM 2005, and a second version, GWM-VI, which is version independent, can be run with any version of MODFLOW, and also has parallel processing capability. Moving to downloading the software, one can see that this is available on the website, either version, and we will download the GWM 2005 version and look at what is available in that release. If we download GWM 2005 and unzip the file and open it, we will see something like this. Set of directories and files. This is GWM 2005 version 1-5-2. And we have a bin directory which contains the executable. We have the source code in this directory, Fortran source code. We have the documentation, and in particular, let's look at the input instructions in this directory. Opening the input instructions file, we find this cover page, this first page, and we see a table of contents which describes how GWM is set up with respect to MODFLOW, and then a set of specific files related to GWM input that describe decision variables, objective functions, constraints, and solution procedures. In future episodes on GWM input, each of these files will be described and examples provided. In this episode, we're going to focus on these first sets of instructions. Returning now to the doc directory, the other files in this directory are reports that describe various aspects of GWM, provide background theory, and provide some example problems. Returning to the main directory for the distribution, we'll now look in the data file, and this contains a set of sample problems that are useful for understanding how to set up GWM. We'll focus first on the dewater sample problem, and these individual files. The dewater sample problem consists of a simple single-layer grid shown here with constant head boundaries on the left and right side, producing a flow from left to right. It's a one-layer model. It's confined and it is steady state. The constraints on this problem are to reduce the heads to specified levels at each of the starred locations by selection of pumping rates at each of the 7 candidate well locations. So let's take a look at how we would set up this problem. We start with a name file, and GWM is a process in the MODFLOW name file, listed in the MODFLOW name file. So here's the standard MODFLOW name file with the discretization, BAS, BCF files referenced, and we're using a PCG solver. And here's the new feature. This is a GWM file, GWM keyword indicating the presence of a GWM file. So now let's take a look at that GWM file. Back to the directory for all the dewater problem files, we see a dewater GWM file. Opening that up, this is what it looks like. We have a decvar file, which is a decision variable file, objective function file, a variable constraints file, a head constraints file, and a solution file. This is the solution parameters for GWM. Returning to the data directory and emphasizing once again that if we look at the dewater name file, we see, except for the addition of the GWM keyword on the last line, a conventional MODFLOW name file input. So if one has a MODFLOW model that is compatible with with MODFLOW 2005, all one needs to do is add the GWM keyword, provide a GWM file, and the associated GWM files that describe the problem. Turning now to GWM-VI and downloading this code, we will see the difference in basic input structure philosophy. So after downloading GWM-VI, and this is version 1-0-2, unzipping it and opening it, we find this set of files and directories. The test directory contains the sample files, and these are organized somewhat differently than for GWM 2005. All of the data for all of the test problems is in this data directory, which I turn to now. We see the dewater problem is in here. And for the dewater problem, we have a name file. Opening that name file, we find the following. Keywords for MODFLOW, DIS, BAS, BCF, PCG, OC, the well, a data file. No mention of GWM. Now returning to the data directory, we look for the GWM file, and here it is. And we see listed here the decision variable file, the objective function file, and so on. And we see the name file. So the primary difference between GWM 2005 and GWM-VI is demonstrated here. Namely, GWM-VI runs as a separate program which calls upon the MODFLOW version that is being used and accesses it through the name file for that model. In other words, with GWM-VI you can take an existing model, make no changes to it, and simply provide to GWM the name file for that model and some other information which is in this control file, which we will discuss at a future episode.